Hello, my name is Veldine Bjornson, and I work with the University of Manitoba as a reading specialist at Migizi Agamic. I'm going to discuss how to approach readings for written assignments. So if you're having to do assignments that are based on reading for writing, first thing you should do is make sure you understand what the purpose is, right? So you're going to go through the syllabus and make sure you reread it again and again, just to make sure you understand what exactly you have to do for this written assignment. The worst thing that could happen is if you go ahead and start writing your assignment and then you find out maybe after a few classes or after you start thinking about things again that that you've maybe gone in the wrong direction. So definitely look at the syllabus. Obviously ask your professor questions. They obviously want you to do well, so make sure you're double checking with the professor if you're not quite sure what to do. And then again, don't spend time wondering and then just keep going in the assignment. Just make sure that you are you know, doing what you're supposed to do rather than kind of guessing at what you're supposed to do. So just make sure you're double checking with the professor and looking at your syllabus. And then the other thing is, what are you supposed to do in this written assignment? Are you supposed to be giving a summary of something? Are you just supposed to be contributing your opinion or your reflections? Or is there something else, right? So there might be other things you might have to be writing about, which might be convincing somebody, persuasion, there's other things. So make sure you understand the purpose, because that will definitely change the way you approach your writing. But again, what are the expectations? So I'm really cautioning you to ask the professor before you start your assignment. Ask other students, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Is that what you think about it? Just ask some general questions, and then make sure you're rereading the assignment expectations or the syllabus, just to make sure you're on the right track. And then when you're getting ready for that writing, you're going to notice that we're not writing until a long time. So to prepare yourself for writing, the writing process really usually starts with reading, right? So I would recommend skimming and scanning readings if you've already decided what you need to do. So if you're writing basing on one article, that's a little bit more streamlined than if you're doing a reflection based on several articles, or across textbook, or across some kind of recording that you have to listen to, or a reading chapter of some kind. So I would get a general lay of the land. So skimming and scanning means basically, look at the different pieces of information that you're going to have to put together, or what you're going to have to write on. Get a basic idea, right? Get a basic idea of what the topic is, what you have to do, and then start thinking about, as you're skimming and kind of leafing through and sort of looking at things, get an idea, a general idea of how they're connecting and how they're different. Now, again, that's going to depend on what the purpose of your reading is, but certainly just getting a big, broad idea of the readings, if that's what you have to do, is really important. And then, of course, as you're skimming it, you're thinking about how they might interconnect, or how they might be written about in terms of your specific assignment. Make sure, again, you're referring specifically to your syllabus or whatever your professors told you to do in terms of the assignment and the expectations. So just get a general lay of the land is what you're supposed to do first, right? Then I would, if you can print up the readings. I know that lots of students are doing PDFs and they highlight, so you can still do the same thing, but you can highlight different colors. Like if you think a certain theme is coming out, so you might highlight that all with the yellow color, and then another theme might be coming out as you skim, and just kind of look generally at the readings, and you might choose a different color for a different theme. So different colors will help you kind of get starting on the writing as well. You might not have sticky tabs, in a physical form, but you might have that option to have sticky tabs or notes in your I guess your electronic textbook, right? So your online textbook, you could have that kind of feature where you could put notes on the side of the text. You can do that too. So maybe you start writing notes about, this is related to this, and then you go to the next page and you can write a note about, this is related to that, and maybe have different colored sticky tabs for different things, right? Again. And then again, if you're actually printing up the readings, you can use margins to make notes, and obviously you can use different colored pens. I feel like you can literally do that with an ebook as well, right? Where you can just have notated on a PDF and just use your pen and circle certain things with different colors. But again, colors are going to help, because if you're skimming it right now, you're just kind of looking at the lay of the land a little bit. Once you go back and start thinking about your writing and you've sorted it out a little bit with colors, that'll help with writing down and creating, different areas or different sections of your writing. Another thing that you can do here is once you've sort of color coded sort of the themes that you see, then you can start doing a little bit of a visual map, right? So you might have sort of, the main topic of your writing, and then you might start saying, okay, this is the yellow section. These are the themes that I come up with there. This is the red section. These are the themes for the red section. The blue colors, whatever I use for a pen or a sticky tab or highlighter, that's my blue theme. So from those colors, you can start making a visual map of your writing. So the visual map could be based on the reading. So basically, once you sort of done that skim, maybe with your highlighters or different colors, you can start making this visual map based on, like I said, general idea of maybe the big ideas of what you really want to write about, or it could be specific quotes. So in that case, if you're having to do specific citations, that'll save you a lot of time. So if you've color coded sort of these themes already, then you can start writing down citations like where it actually came from. So possibly the author or the page numbers. And then you can categorize them, start categorizing them and organizing them, right? So you might find that as you start writing these ideas down, you might think, okay, well, that yellow section that I thought was different than the red section, they kind of are together. So I'm going to kind of put them, as I know that they will follow in the writing. So maybe put those kinds of ideas kind of closer together. But the blue section or the blue highlighter or the blue pens that you kind of shown to be another theme will be a different kind of idea. So once you start getting these things visually outlined, based on your color coding originally, then you can start organizing how your paper will be actually ultimately organized, right, in the big picture. So once you have that visual map, so do you have big ideas? Like the big ideas are necessary for the paragraphs, right? So you might have various paragraphs. You might have 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 paragraphs based on big ideas. Do you have quotes? So some written assignments ask for you to have specific citations from 5 journal articles or from the syllabus. You have to cite certain, readings from the syllabus. So make sure that your quotes need to be ready to go. If you don't, go back to your little visual map of your writing and start adding those in there, because if you add it to your visual map, then you can, as you're writing, seamlessly sort of just keep on putting all these citations in there. Do you have enough material though? So you're not writing yet, you're just doing a quick scan. Do I actually have enough material for 2 pages? Do I actually have enough material for 10 pages, right? So you're really looking at that and being kind of, hard on yourself in terms of don't start writing until you think you have enough material to get writing. And because if you start writing and then you end up with 2 pages, but you need 10, that's going to be a lot harder, probably a lot more painful for you to go back and rewrite that, right? Because you've already kind of spent time kind of creating that paper already. Okay, so again, visual map. So have a pause here. If you're looking at your visual map, go back to the syllabus and say, are these themes and what am I thinking? Is it related to the syllabus? Does it answer the questions that the syllabus asked me to do? Does it follow, like, does it have a thesis statement? Does it have a research question? Is it following some kind of, framework that the syllabus has asked me to do, right? And then make sure you follow the guidelines, right? Don't go creative if you're supposed to be staying very narrow, right? So make sure you're double checking with the syllabus. So that visual map is not quite done yet, right? So under these big ideas, so like these big colors, like the red section, the blue section, the yellow section, or whatever, what are the 3 small ideas that could support those themes? So right now, what you're doing here really technically in a visual way is creating your paragraphs. So you might have a big picture idea that was blue, but then under that big picture idea, start thinking, okay, what am I going to actually write? What are the things that I saw in the reading? What else did I highlight? What are the other important ideas that go under that big theme? So in other words, you're really trying to create a visual of like the paragraphs underneath that big theme. Right. And then again, if you have to get more, kind of length, let's say, then really what you should be doing is, again, going back to each of those sections and seeing if you have, quotations or you have a way to prove what you're writing about in the paragraph, right? So along with those big ideas, start thinking about the small ideas and how you're actually going to write the paragraph and what are my actual points? What am I actually going to say? Just one word or two words. It's really, really short, little shorthand kind of ways to kind of keep track of your writing. Now, this might sound funny, but when you talk out loud, when you talk out loud based on that visual map, you'll have a sense of, am I ready to write or not? Right. So if I look at that visual map, if you show me your visual map or your kind of visual imagery of your writing, let's say, I should be able to have a pretty good idea or maybe even talk about what you're going to write about. So certainly you knowing the information will be able to fill in the blanks, right? So if your visual map has enough like little one word here and there, enough information under the big themes, then you should be able to talk about it quite well. If you feel like when you look at that sort of outline of your writing and you're stumped and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to say here or there, you might say, I don't know if I should put that in there because there's just not enough information. Or you might say, oopsie, I really need to go into that whole idea, that whole topic. So I got to go back to the readings and take a look at what I need to do to add more information. So if you can talk to yourself and walk yourself through that visual map or that concept map of your writing, then you're ready. But if not, you have to get more details. So the basics of the essay writing is basically you need to have a thesis. So basically that's an introduction, right? Usually in a syllabus, they'll specifically say you have to have a thesis statement or at least some kind of introductory paragraph, right? So all good essays will have sort of, this is what I'm going to talk about. There are many different ways to think about this. And these are the ways that I'm thinking about, like just a basic introduction. Without going into too many details here, but a basic introduction of what you're actually going to write about over the pages that you're writing. Then, of course, your color-coded highlights that you highlighted from your readings, remember, those are going to be your body paragraphs, right? So you're going to have these supporting ideas based on the color coding, right? So color coding and then little ideas and the citations that you've added, and that will become your paragraphs, right? And then another important thing is you have to end with something. You kind of have to tie it up and say, in conclusion, basically, this is what I understand about this topic, or in conclusion, this is why I think you should, da, 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 if it's persuasion, or, in conclusion, I learned a lot, like something that sort of ties it up. Different than the introduction, but similar in the sense that you're kind of touching on main ideas, essentially your color-coded pieces, remember, essentially that's what you're going to do. You're going to kind of tie them up a little bit with a nice kind of conclusion statement or idea, right, in the paragraph. In paragraphs, though, now if we're taking apart the paragraphs have to have topic sentences. So the first sentence, it's sort of like a hamburger, I guess. So the top is your top bun. The middle is your, I don't know, lettuce and meat if you're into meat. Then the bottom is sort of that bottom, kind of bun in a hamburger. So the topic sentence is basically, something that's going to say, what are you writing about in this particular section, this particular paragraph? Then you're going to have your little ideas. Now, keep in mind, that's the little ideas that you added after you had those big theme ideas. And then at the end of that same paragraph, you're going to have either something that says, and this is, an example of whatever it is, right? So that was a paragraph about that particular idea. Or you can say, and then the next thing that I'm going to discuss, or this is also related to such and such. And then you go on in the next paragraph to talk about such and such, right? So it's sort of a transition. So it really is going to depend, but you always should start with a topic just to set me up as a reader. Give me some ideas of why you're saying that in your topic sentence, and then sort of give me a sort of a kind of final statement, or send me on my way to your next idea in a conclusion or transition sentence, okay? So again, sentence writing, if you go into the basics of a sentence, though, let's go back into it. You have to have a bare bone at least, right? Which is, I run, right? So the subject and what are you doing? It doesn't have to always be physical, but it could be mental. I think, right? That's a sentence. But then again, expanding on that, I think that da 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 is unfair, or I can run upstairs and downstairs in my house. I don't know. So you're adding added details there, but always remember that you have to have the basic bare bone, which is the subject, something or someone or some idea is being discussed, and some kind of action, or well, technically it's a verb, but something is happening, right? So technically if you have those, you can add a bunch of details, right, on top of that. And so it's just a good rule of thumb. If you're not sure exactly about sentence writing, it has to be a complete thought. And sometimes students do add additional thoughts into sentences, which make run-on sentences. So just be careful of that. And I would suggest just having one subject and one action sort of in each of your sentences. They can still be long sentences because you can add descriptors and expanders, but just make sure that you don't have too many different subjects and actions happening, right, in one sentence. Otherwise, it gets really complicated for the reader to make sense of your idea. So your first draft. So this is really the fun part. Kind of not though, because you have to really comb through it, right? So your first draft, after you've written this now, have you straight away go back to the syllabus, go back to your highlights from your readings, go back to the visual map that you created. Did you forget a section? Did you have some highlight sections that you thought were really interesting, but they didn't end up in your paper, right? So this is where you can, and did you follow the syllabus? Oopsie, I was supposed to add, a research statement in there and I don't even have that. So those three things here, look at your syllabus, look at the highlights that you've made when you're reading, and look at your visual map before you started to write, are really going to hold you accountable. Did you do what you thought you were going to do? Or did you, change a lot, which might be, but just make sure you're going with your first idea, your initial kind of plan, and see if you need to add or maybe not, right? It depends. Sometimes when you start writing, things evolve in a different way, which is fine, but make sure you're staying true to maybe your original idea just to see if you forgot or strayed away, right? So revising and proofreading can be a little bit time consuming. So take your time. Take your time to review. I sometimes feel like if you say it out loud, it's going to be super helpful. Again, you might, if you are really concerned about the organization of the paper, create a backwards visual map. So you're going to, read one section and then start making the theme. Okay, that's about that. And then you read the next paragraph and you write the main idea with that paragraph. Then you read the next paragraph and you write down the main idea for that one. So you're creating a visual map basically of different points that you've had in each of your paragraphs, just to see, once you've looked at those points, yep, that flows. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's a good idea there. Yeah, I think that flows. So you're kind of doing the opposite. You're doing a backwards visual map, right? So just checking to see if it flows. Do the sentences relate? Does the one paragraph to another, does that all make sense? Now, I mentioned this idea about reading it out loud. I would highly recommend that. Just even if you're really quiet, but say something out loud as you're looking through it. Just talk it out loud, because we can really pick up on things that don't make sense when we say it out loud. It's a little bit easier. Use spell check, but be super careful, because sometimes spell check doesn't catch on things, or they correct it in the wrong way. So you still really should be reading it aloud, making sure you're getting, a handle on what the errors are. And then of course, watching grammar. So you can do in Word docs, you can, obviously, I'm pretty sure all of you know, you can check for grammar and for spelling. So you can definitely have like those red flags for you just automatically. But I think, again, to be really safe, make sure you read it out loud. There's often silly little mistakes that aren't picked up that can kind of show that you really haven't done your editing in a very thorough way. So, another thing, the technical components. So make sure you know MLA, APA, you might have to do Chicago citations. So there are references for that, and you can definitely go to websites that show you exactly what to do. So ask your professor about what website they would like you to go to for references, but make sure you understand how to do the specific citation in that particular model or framework for citation. Can you add footnotes? Some, technical pieces like the citation rules don't allow for footnotes. And then other, like the different types of citation formal writing have different reference pages, and they want you to write it in different ways. Even those little basic things are specifically different for different kinds of citation models, right? So APA or MLA or Chicago, for example. Okay, and if you're interested in joining book clubs, or you're looking for other supports, certainly the Academic Learning Center, the Migizi Agamic has lots of different options. And certainly I'm here for any other questions. and you can just send me an email. I would be happy to work with you. Okay, so thanks again and hope to see you soon. Okay, take care.